Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 17th version of Monday Night Magic. I'm Lori Falk, and my co-host is Ken Close. We are, bar none, your favorite Epigenetic Geeks, and we plan on sharing a whole bunch of fabulous epi-type information with you. Ken's fresh back from Dr. Joe Dispenza, and so he's on fire, and we have a really great lineup for you guys tonight. We are going to talk about what happens when the weather changes.
Right? we just think, hey, we're just having a weather change, right? It's raining outside, it's snowing outside, but we're going to do a deep dive into really what goes on with our body and how we are connected to this planet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know about you guys, but here in Wisconsin, we've gone from 70-degree days one week to snow and 30-degree temperatures. It's like crazy. And then it's going to go back to 70. So that's a lot of change. And with that kind of change comes a dramatic impact on your physical body and on your emotions. Because you know what's coming when you live in this part of the world.
Absolutely. So let's just dive right in. How about that? Does that sound fun, everybody? We'll just dive right in. And so basically tonight's topic subject matter is around the fall equinox. So we're now into another season, and that affects us differently than some of the other seasons. As the days become shorter, as the cycle of our exposure to the sun starts to change, there are very distinct biological, psychological and energetic changes that go on within the body. And a lot of times people don't really realize that, and they just continue doing what they've always done. And this kind of stuff kind of throws the body out of whack. And by the way, you can write that down, whack. It's a technical term for whether you're in or out of harmony, I guess we'll call it that way. But it throws you out of whack. And we need to really pay attention to this because we live on a planet that shifts and changes, right? And in some cases, there's not big shifts. So maybe you're in a climate that really stays within a certain temperature range and humidity range, or you're in spaces which, like Lori or myself, where we get these 4 seasons, and we need to pay attention to that. And then when people are coming to us, especially as maybe Healy practitioners or energy practitioners or healing practitioners of any kind, and they're having these conditions, and it seems to be happening every fall or every winter, right? We can start unpacking what that means. Anything you want to add to that, Lori?
I'm thrilled that we're doing this tonight because I shared with you earlier in the green room how it's really impacting me. And I'm noticing, I'm testing like at 70% for fatigue. And I know that a lot of that has to do with the fact I really love warm weather. And, I'm not adjusting well to the cold. I'm trying to embrace it. I'm trying to go outside and look at the beauty of the colored leaves. And I've scheduled some hikes for Gabby and I this last couple of weekends, and we went on an art tour. I mean, I'm really trying to embrace it, but my psyche's going, oh, you can't fool me. We know what's coming. And Ken was really explaining some cool stuff to me today about how your body knows, whether it looks at a calendar or not. It knows because the days are getting shorter. It knows. Mm-hmm. It has a memory of what happens. Why don't you tell us about that, Ken?
Yeah, so this is so think about this for a second. We have relationships to everything, right? I mean, this is the way that we as a human form interface with everything outside of us. We also have relationships to things inside of us. Our thoughts stimulate specific chemistries within our body. There's a relationship between the thought and the body's experience or expression of that thought. And as Lori mentioned, I just got back from a week-long immersion event with Dr. Joe, and he really talks about the physiology of thought, the energetic expression and the biology of thought and what that does to us. So, so this relationship that we have to all things, and whether it's a person, those are another relationship things. We're not talking about relationships tonight so much in terms of people, but we're going to talk about relationships to things such as our circadian rhythm. And as we grow through our years, the subconscious stores content, stores information, and the brain is the archive of all this data. Now, the things that we can recall and remember tend to be not exactly accurate sometimes. In fact, neuroscience shows that 50% of what you think you know is incorrect. Is incorrect. Now think about that. The things that you remember, the things that are stored in the brain. Now, you know, the mathematical equations, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the recanting of experience. And 50% of what you remember is not correct. A lot of times what happens is the mind tries to sort out the pieces it doesn't remember. The brain doesn't want to be wrong, so it's going to make sure to fill in the blanks. So if you don't remember something in detail, it'll get filled in. And most often that fill-in content is embellished, right? It's blown up a little bit because you're talking about this stressor, this condition that happened way back when, maybe a snake crawled into your tent and whatever. It was like very traumatic. And you talk about this experience. You remember that snake was like 10 feet long, right? And it was so big that it, like, you know, turned the tent over. And then, you know, your uncle that was there at the same camp out was like, really, it was a little tiny garden snake. Come on, you guys, you know. So again, we remember things incorrectly based on the emotional experience that goes on. Now, the subconscious remembers also the circadian rhythm. It remembers not just this year, and Lori talked about how it's, you know, cold and snow and interesting going on, and maybe you reflect back on years past, it's like, wow, it's never been like this before. But there is a recall of what the fall represents and the winter represents and the summer represents, including what daylight and nighttime represent within the body. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more too in detail. The body has the remembrance. It's built into the biology, and our reticular activating system. This is the 400 billion bits of content information per second. 400 billion bits of information per second going through this neural bundle, this neural network. And all this information is stored, and it's communications between mind, body, interior, exterior. And it's a great library, I guess, of information, but it also starts to set the tone and expectations of the body. So in other words, we're moving into the fall. You start to, as Lori said, witness this beautiful changing in colors of the leaves. And why is that? Why are the leaves changing? Is it an intelligence within the leaf, or is it exposure to the environment, right? And really, there's a bit of both. But as the days get shorter, the number of hours that it's exposed to sun, in other words, also warming the earth, warming the plant, the photosynthesis, it's going to change. And look how sensitive it is. Remember just what, 6 weeks ago or maybe 4 weeks ago, the days were much longer, and now we're changing every day, a little shorter, a little shorter, a little shorter. And as a result, every living thing is being influenced, has a relationship with that. So again, with us as a human body, our subconscious remembers every bit, every piece of every year that you've ever been alive. And it has mapped out all those seasons and averaged out, essentially, a way of survival so that you are in the best place to overcome whatever changes are going on. And believe me, typically the mind makes up the worst case scenario. Like Lori says, you know, hey, it snowed. Oh my God, winter's already here, right? This worst case scenario. I've got to hunker down. I better get the wood on, you know, on the fire, whatever goes on in the mind. But still, this is some stuff that goes on, and it affects the body. It has a stress response, no different than the changing of those leaves. The tree, the plant, nature has a stress response. and the stressing changes the physical condition of the entity of the body. And that's what we're going through right now. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Lori, you want to add some stuff?
You guys, well, actually, you ladies, this is so important. Did you know that you actually have to eat less at this time of the year so you don't gain weight? Oh my God, that makes me crazy. I have like this big sign on my refrigerator. It's fall, eat less. And there's actual reasons why. I mean, not the least of which is when it's getting dark earlier, we're not wanting to go outside. We're not wanting to go to the store. We don't want it. We're just rather turn on the TV or grab a good book and cuddle up on the couch and throw on an extra thing and eat warm foods. Rita says, yes, yes, yes. Eat warm foods. I made a huge batch of homemade chicken soup this weekend. So, but you got to still move. So whatever you can do to get the body in motion is going to be super important, even when you're not feeling like it. So what could you run? How about the activation program? And the jobs, right? I mean, you got to do things to motivate you.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some of the programs that kind of correlate to changing of the seasons, and then also fortifying and supporting the body. And as Lori said, remember, the days are getting shorter. So in nature, there is a natural hibernation, a change of the activities within animals, and these are instinctive. Humans have this big frontal lobe here that outweighs and overruns instinct. And so we think, you know what, but I still have to go to work. I have eaten the meal at the same time all year long, or for however many years I've been having my meals, and my schedule is still set. And yet the sun goes down and the optic nerve is no longer receiving the signal of light, that frequency of light. And so melatonin is going to start to build. This is subconscious functions, folks. We're not in control of this, right? The optic nerve is. And so what do? We turn the lights on. Okay, well, that's artificial light so that we can see what we're doing. But the problem is the body still has an entire historical record of what it's like when the sun goes down. This time of year versus summer versus winter, there's an entire historical record. So irregardless, if you turn the lights on, there's still going to be a chemical shift within the body. Serotonin is going to start to reduce, melatonin is going to start to increase, and the natural state of rest is going to start to be promoted. But yet, what are we doing? It's only 5 o'clock in the evening, so it's still dinner time, right? We're going to have dinner. We're going to have our after dinner activities. Maybe we're going to go for a walk with the dog. We're going to have a flashlight and a reflective vest, so we're safe. But still, we're going to do these things, and yet the body's starting to try to shut down. So I highly recommend is to start to live by the light. Do an experiment. If you can take some time off from your normal schedule and live by the light, just find out what happens to your body by living by the light. So when the sun comes up, you are starting your day. When the sun goes down, you are down regulating your day. You're ready for rest, right? The rest phase of your day needs to start happening at dark. So just give those things a try, because the more you get better at that, remember, as the light goes down, melatonin goes up, the process of burning calories starts to slow down. And so if you've got a meal sitting there and especially if this meal happens to contain carbs, right? And we'll talk about that a little bit later too. It's going to need activity to burn off that fuel, right? If you're not having the activity, you're not going to burn off the fuel. Plus, you've got a chemical shift, a hormonal shift, a melatonin shift that's going to start shutting down or slowing down, not shutting down, but slowing down that metabolic stuff so that you can rest. This is on purpose. It's not by accident. It's the way we're built. We can fight it or we can find harmony with it. And I say, let's try to find harmony with that. And of course, we've got Healy programs to work with digestion We've got Healy programs to work with energy levels. But if you're continuing to do your work and you've moved on from the evening into the night and it's been dark for hours, maybe you had dinner at 5 p.m. and now here it is 9 p.m. and you still quite haven't gotten through your email list. Remember, there's history within the brain and there's knowledge within the body. And this history and knowledge both knows what's necessary to maintain energy levels in your body. And it knows how to do long-term energy resources. It knows what long-term energy resources are. It knows what short-term emergency energy resources are. It knows that very well. And so as you move into the 9 o'clock, 10 p.m. hour, and you're still working, you've got the artificial light on, melatonin's been on board for a while now, right? Because the natural light's gone out. The historical relationship between your day from last year this time and your day from this year this time is recorded in the mind and body. All that content's there. So it knows it's time to start to shut down, but you have continued to do your work because you got a deadline. Okay, no worries, but I just want you to know what's happening inside your body. This is the epigenetic influence. When you are staying awake, the lights are on, you're answering your emails, you're still trying to get the jobs done that you haven't finished for the day. And here it is 10 p.m. And all of a sudden you get this craving for what? Something sweet, right? Popcorn or a carb or chips or something sweet, right? And remember, this is the body going, okay, you're going to keep me awake. You're going to make me work. I remember what the short-term fuel source is. When I need a fast response fuel source, sugar. It knows what that is. So it's going to go, but brain needs some fuel, body needs some fuel. So it's going to build a craving within you. And you're going to have some popcorn. You're going to have, I promise you, it's going to be carbs. I think, Lori, you mentioned it was crackers, right?
Always. It's always crackers. And, here's the thing, you guys, I really am a very disciplined person. And it's been driving me nuts that night after night, I am constantly wanting crackers. So here's what I did. I made myself a little note. Can you see it? It says, go to bed. And I'm going to put this heart on the cracker box because I thought it was me being lazy. I thought it was me not being able to control my cravings. And that's so not like me. So this was a huge awakening when Ken and I were having this conversation today. And I'm it's a catch-22. I hear what you're saying, Ken, about try to, get up with the sun and wind down with the sun. And think about this, though. We have people on the East Coast, right, where this meeting tonight started at 8:30. And for me, it's 7:30. And I bet you 4 nights a week, I'm on here doing Zooms, whether it's my coaching program, my team meetings, Monday Night Magic, intro to Healy calls, whatever it is, because so many people have day jobs and we need to do this work in the evening. So I invariably am working until 10 at night and my brain is on. So this is going to be a real interesting challenge. Ken also told me drink 8 ounces of water and go to bed. So I guess I should make a second post-it that says drink water or add that to this one. But, we have to understand what is physiologically going on in our system and it's not us.
Right. And that's it. It's us, but it's not the conscious us, right? It's that subconscious us, this infinite intelligence, this amazing network of communications within the cells. And when I say this network of communications, this is on the light frequency spectrum, by the way. The way that our cell systems talk and communicate is through the water in our body at the speed of light. And so this is amazing how this communications network, this relationship that's going on within the cell structures of our body speaks to each other. And it creates this, this need. And the hormones that produce the hunger hormone, ghrelin, which produces the desire to go and grab some food, can also be biohacked or sidetracked by drinking water. Because the same need, by the way, think about this for a second. when the body is dehydrated, and most people are, and it doesn't take much, just 3% dehydration will lead up to 10% loss of muscle strength and up to 8% loss in muscle speed, contractile and extension speed, just 3% dehydration. So the body is trying to always regulate that and give you cravings. Sometimes the hormone ghrelin for you to eat is to actually try to get water on board, because there's water inside your food, right? Except for crackers, so they don't count, right? But the point is that if you're craving food, typically whatever you eat, there's got some water content in it. And so if you drink at least an 8-ounce glass of water, shut yourself down, go to bed, you're kind of hacking that craving for sugar, right? And I love what Izzy says, you must be weird. I crave meat. That's not weird. That's not weird, because there's still energy. And remember, I just got done saying that the history of your body is built into the cells and the subconscious, and that reticular activating system is reading the needs of the body and also then accessing all of the content of your entire life as to what gave you energy. Trust me, protein gives you energy. Protein is what is the building block for every movement within the body. You can't have a movement, a single thing in the body actually operate without a protein. So, so sometimes craving meat is just your body's history, how it figured out how to assign meaning to a quick energy boost, and it was protein in that case. So that's all good. Let's see, we got some questions in here. Anything you want to unpack there, Lori?
Well, I knew somebody was going to say this. Thanks, Colleen. It's you, because everybody thinks that way. The more you drink, the more you wake up during the night to go to the bathroom, which interrupts your sleep.
I want to unpack that a minute, by the way.
Yeah, let's do it.
I want to unpack that a minute. So the body is an opportunist. I should say our bladder is an opportunist. So your bladder is designed to hold a lot more than what you typically evacuate during the day, because it's always an opportunist. And so in other words, when you're maybe driving in a car, remember what I said, the subconscious remembers when you're driving in a car, it remembers that there are sporadic stopping points in which you could go to the bathroom. And so every time you stop, it's probably going to drive the desire to go to the bathroom. The body's always looking for an opportunity to evacuate. So same thing at night, when we go to sleep, our bladder, remember, it's no accident. Our body's built in a certain way. The bladder is built in a way to process all the fluids that you've ingested up until that point, up into the time of going to sleep. The problem is that typically we have some kind of a restless sleep pattern or some kind of an interference with the sleep, that when you wake or move from that theta state into alpha, and then which is the beta state, which is the analytical state of the mind, awake, then the body says, oh, you're awake, gotta pee, right? And you think you wake up because of that happen to go to the bathroom, but most of the time it's because you've stirred in some fashion that turned on the response to evacuate, the opportunity to evacuate. So I would look at the sleep patterns. I would look at how much time one is spending in deep sleep or REM sleep, because I promise you that occurrence of having to go to the bathroom is going to happen during light sleep or near wake, right? So something's going on, you find a discomfort with the body, you're laying on your arm wrong or whatever, and you go to move and you have to wake up to actually kind of be aware of that. And then that waking up state moves you into the beta, time to get up and go to the bathroom. I mean, it's always going to be natural. So just an experiment. I mean, I've done this for years in terms of how to interface with the sleep cycle, with drinking water, with all kinds of variations, and study the body. Really, what's the body doing in all cases? Lori?
Yeah, so here's a really good reason to get a mag Healy, guys. I test drove one when I was in Orlando in August, and the first program I ran that night, of course, was the sleep program, because I wanted to see if I ran that into the atmosphere. It's one of the atmosphere programs, so it will run until you shut it off. So it's not like with the Healy, I love bed rest. I think that's a great program, but with this sleep program in the atmosphere category, that thing just runs and runs and runs continuously. You don't have to wake up and turn it back on. Well, guess what? I'm the girl who wakes up at least twice a night to have to pee. That did not happen with the Mag Healy. I slept 7.5 hours straight through without waking up to pee. So the bladder handles it, right?
And, yep. And take a look at the evidence. The evidence is that it still handled it. She woke up, probably had to go right away, but still the point is it's an opportunist. It's not something that the body's not built to be able to withstand or handle. I mean, think about maybe when you were a teenager and you slept 12 hours, right? I mean, yes, the body changes over years, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I'm the only guy here. So yes, the body changes over the years. However, it still has, there's no accident that it has these capacities, these abilities that never go away. Right. So let's talk about some of the emotional shifts that happen based on, now we've talked about some of the physical things, but some of the physical or the emotional things that happen as a result of, say, shorter days. How many of you guys love the sun? I mean, I love the sun, right? And so as that sun exposure starts to reduce, our body builds, vitamin D based on the exposure of the sun, right? We can do supplements to help us out, but our body still loves and loves the sun. And I highly recommend that, even doesn't matter what time of year, if the sun's out, you should be out, right? And just because the sun's behind a cloud doesn't mean there's still not energy coming through to this planet. There still is. So my body wakes me up before sunrise, and as often as I possibly can, I do what I call sitting upon the stone, which is a beautiful beach along the river. It's got big, huge boulders, and I will perch myself. Rain, shine, snow, doesn't matter, and I will perch myself there and spend time greeting the sun. So even on a cloudy day, I know my body knows when that's going to happen, and I can actually create the experience by thought alone. This is another process that Dr. Joe elaborates on very well. And the fact that if you guys can recall anything within your life, have you ever listened to a song that stimulated a feeling within you because it reminded you of an old flame or an experience in which you had a huge emotional response? And that song, just by hearing it, turns all of the body on, right? So this is a thing that we can do by mental rehearsal, by stimulus outside of us. We can create an experience inside of us, and that's very healing. And this is something that we want to be able to propagate. And then Healy actually helps us to increase that signaling. It helps us to increase the cell receptor sites for the experience to be even more spectacular. When I do my meditations, depends on what I'm doing. If I'm doing a heart-centered meditation, I'll run the heart chakra program while I'm doing that. And oh my gosh, there's my boulders right there.
I couldn't resist. So I'm sure he's got his Healy underneath all those clothes, running the heart chakra program.
Yeah, so this is the space, and it's fall is starting to change the colors of the things around it. There's pine trees and the needles are falling. I mean, I can just sit in that space and absorb nature, and it's a healing agent all by itself. And then increase that signaling process. Yeah, my Healy's on underneath all that, and I'm running a lot of times the heart chakra, or I'm running emotional well-being, or something around emotional soul well-being, because I'm tapped into that level. So think about that. The mind has tremendous power, and the emotions, the emotions and feelings are to the body as thought is to the brain, and those work in harmony. We want emotions. We don't want to suppress emotions, because that enriches the experience of life. The thought and the emotion enrich the experience of life, and we want to be able to enrich our experience by having that. The power comes from when we can have an emotion and it not adjust or dictate our actions. So this is where our real wisdom comes in, is being able to have an emotion, whether it is seasonally influenced, and that's what's going to happen as more darkness, less daylight hours. We may find, and many people are fall victim to some of the lack of sun experiences and find depression and or
Seasonal affective disorder.
Exactly. Lack of joy. I would rather say it's my joy is a little lower than my depression is a little higher. Okay, my joy is a little lower right now. Let's just up the threshold for joy a little bit. And this is something we can do ourselves by finding, sit upon your stone, find your space in nature, make sure your self-care protocol is on point, which is hydration, movement, breath work, as well as, finding some reason to fall in love with life. So those are some of the most important things I find, and I do that kind of stuff. And as mentioned earlier, these shorter days are going to influence the way your body burns its intake, its fuel, whatever you're taking in. So if you're eating the same this time of year, don't be surprised if you put on a little extra weight. This is, in fact, it's not unusual, because once upon a time, humans migrated from one point to another, wherever the food was, right? So there are certain times of the year in which the bodies would put on extra weight to survive the temperatures, the environment. So if you've noticed this happening with you, seasonally, say in the wintertime, and you blame it on the holidays. I know it's not me, it's the holidays. I mean, it's Aunt Bessie's pie. I mean, it's not me. But the truth is there's also an ally in that assisted way of being. And that is the seasons, the lack of this change in circadian rhythm. Right? Lori, you got something there?
Well, seasonal affective disorders are a very, very, very real thing. And I just really encourage you guys to embrace the mental balance programs. That's what they're there for. And don't forget about the gem elixirs, and don't forget about the Bach flowers and bush flower essences. Those are all going to help you. I often refer to those flower essences like gentle rain. They just come over you and just really relax you and help you elevate your mood. We have so many tools right here in the Healy, and you guys know my story. I had major depressive episode recurrences for 25 years until I got my Healy. So I know that if it can stop that, it can certainly stop seasonal affective disorder. And now we also have digital nutrition. So you can get your D in there, and there's one awesome program called Joy of Life. Jump on it. It's there.
Mm-hmm. And there's another one. Have you guys seen Passion in the digital nutrition? Is it? Yeah, digital nutrition.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Think about it. If we want to maintain motivation, the one hack to maintaining motivation is to stimulate passion in whatever way. And I do a lot of work with what I call the fire escape plan. The fire escape plan is essentially how we find an emotion within our life, a good emotion, a pleasurable emotion with a high amplitude of energy that we can call into the moment in which we're having a high amplitude of emotion that's of low energy. So in other words, anger, fear, frustration, jealousy, or grief even. But we create contrast in certain ways, emotional contrast. So finding a experience in your life that was so filled with passion, so filled with joy and love, and I'm just going to say it, we're all adults here. One of the most, I guess you might say, one of the most influential energy expressions is the human orgasm. It's one of those times in which we have created such a first center, strong physical experience and an emotion attached to it. And we can use that, go back to the memory. Remember, the body doesn't forget. The body does not forget. It's written into the DNA. It's written into the biology. It's written into your subconscious. And by thought alone, you can create a full embodied experience to remember it. And so in the moment of having some lower frequency, some lower energetic influence of emotion, you can pull in something of higher level, just as strong, something with passion attached to it. And that can help essentially biohack you out of the experience. And the key is that it's when those emotions drive your actions that the body is starting to feel the burden as well as your life. So think about that in a way of how can I piggyback or pull up a fire escape plan and you need to have this plan in place. What's a fire escape plan? It's posted ahead of the event. So in other words, if you can pull out some experiences in your life with high passion, with high emotional charge, write them down, rehearse them, think them through so that you can have them as a fire escape plan. So the next time that you wind up in a emotional response to something triggered by an outside influence, and you go down that rabbit hole of lower vibration feelings, you could now have something to pull up in the moment, something to pull up as a resource. And if you don't have anything in your life, create it. You know, I love sunrise. I love sunsets. I can have just as much oxytocin flourishing in my body by a sunset as I can a roller coaster ride. Right? I mean, I can build that kind of thing, but this takes practice. You've got to write it down, and then remember, the body doesn't know the difference between something you make up in your mind or something you experience in the three-dimensional space. It doesn't know the difference. It's still going to have all the biological, all the chemical, all the hormonal responses. I mean, have you ever had a dream about falling? And you wake up and you've got this heart palpitations and you've got this fear going on, right? There's a stress response going on. If you were to measure your cortisol levels right then, they'd be through the roof. So that's just something happening in your mind. So this is another biohack that I highly recommend using and digging into, especially as we're going into the fall, as the propensity or the possibility of that depression, can start to creep up. We need to have a fire escape plan.
I love that. And you know me, you know where I'm going to go with this. You're going to take that and you're going to write it down, your fire escape plan. This is this moment, this space of joy and happiness and something that's going to elevate your spirits. And what do you think I'm going to tell you to do with it? Put it into your coaching module.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And in that moment, have it set up in there, have it somewhere so that when you've got it written out and now you're starting to sink and you're starting to fall into those lower vibes, then I want you to take that intention, put it in the coaching module, and really imagine it with every one of your senses. You're there, you're experiencing it, this is happening. Now remember, you're low right now. You've been vibing low, and now you're experiencing this and vibing high. Guess what's going to happen? The Healy is going to go in and find out what's going on in the subconscious that's preventing you from being in that higher space. So now we're going to biohack it at a whole other level. I think that is going to be, doesn't that sound exciting, or am I just a geek?
No, I love it. I love it because this is exactly what we need to do. It's part of that fire escape plan. You're plugging it in to a a system running a quantum sensor to build quantum entanglement with the biology as well as your information field. Now it's writing content to the information field, and your consciousness, this thought process, this brain, this interface is starting to get this signaling, and then the biology of the body will start to have the effect. So this is I think the best biohack. If we are diligent about our mental practice, if we're diligent about our mindful practice, our meditation practice, we're diligent every day, we're doing something like that, we've got that's a huge ally. So many, it's like, gosh, I didn't get to my meditation today. It was a big schedule. I didn't start my day in the way I thought I would, whatever the case is, and we don't get through some of that. And so Healy helps us to establish and create the field that we would create under meditation. Now, if you do them both, that's a double whammy, right? And I'm a geek for that. I'm a geek for all the different biohacks that I can. I kind of not really a performance junkie, but what's next junkie. How can I up level this a little bit more? And this is why I've spent 10 years with Dr. Joe and learning I don't know, dozens and dozens, dozens of events, learning this idea and this understanding and practicing and over practicing, because that's it. We're always just going to be practicing no matter what. Just like dribbling a ball, you learn how to practice. Sometimes you bounce the ball off your toe, goes flying off directions, but just go grab it, start back and dribble again. And this is part of where Healy helps us out a lot in terms of building a container. I think Healy does a great job of building this container in which we can forget our meditation. Sometimes we can forget and bounce the ball off our toe. We can mess up and still have our back, our ally. It's a way of really having that. Not everybody likes to do meditation either. Not everybody likes to do any kind of a mindfulness practice. So Healy is going to be your thing, I promise you. And knowing which programs to use and why the body's having this shift right now under these conditions is critical. So this is kind of why we unpack these on a epigenetic level. Everybody gets their Epigeneer sticker.
Absolutely. And Ken, the one program that I find so many people forget about is 102 minutes long. Do you guys know what it is? It's the Rebalance program and the Power of 3. And that program, it's like we forget it's there. It's as important as coherence. It's as important as bioenergetic boost. I mean, Marcus created that program because the world went through a pretty chaotic, turbulent time for 2 years. Not just the disease, COVID, if you will, but the lockdowns and the lack of socialization and just the whole world shutting down. I mean, it's impacted us in ways we can't even possibly remember. So what better time of the year to start running Rebalance than during a seasonal change like this? Because that program is actually designed to help improve your mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional immune systems. Did you know we had 4 different immune systems?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty wild. And if you actually go in the back office, into the manual, this program is so important that they did a study on it. Not only did they do the study, but here it is. It literally is in this Healy World manual. And they show you the benefits of how much it helped people in various areas. And what I find fascinating about this is that they weren't intending to do it, but what they found is that it actually helps people who are vaccinated even more so than people who weren't vaccinated. Now, we won't go down that rabbit hole too far, other than to say that maybe somehow those vaccines impacted your immune system and this is helping. But so if there are people that you know out there who needed to get vaccinated because they had an elderly parent, or I know
work related or something, or
right, we have something that can help them. So
Mhm.
not only will it help any of us as the seasons change to rebalance and give us that boost, but you have something to offer people who didn't want the vaccine but got it anyway.
Mhm.
So
I love that. So there's Ali asks here a question about, is there a cheat sheet somewhere in which one can look at all these different programs and what they do? And there's not really an elaborate one. And especially if we're trying to figure out what programs to use intuitively, I mean, the name can tell us a lot, but not always does the name reflect exactly like the benefit of what it does. Like, for instance, bed rest we talked about earlier. It's on the sleep program page, but its purpose, one of its biggest purposes or modalities for shifting us, is to shift us from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic nervous system. In other words, from fight or flight to rest and digest, because that's when the body is going to be more likely to be able to sleep. So it doesn't always, the name doesn't always give all the background, but there is within the search module, gives us a lot about what to use for certain conditions. This is what is very, very useful. Comes with all the Healys, is the Heal Advisor search module. You can go in there and you can put a keyword in about a condition or an issue, and it'll show you what microcurrent programs that are assigned for that. The other one, of course, is the resonance scan, doing scans within the Healy, using Healy as the database, all Healy programs as the database. It's going to start to reveal what pages. The first revelation is what pages, 5 different pages of programs that are going to be necessary for you in that moment of time. Then you can drill down each page individually to find out which programs now on that page are most relevant for you based on a percentage. This is a huge and amazing tool. You don't need to use your awareness. You don't need to use your subjective input. You can use the objective input of the quantum sensor and the Healy database, or I should say the AI system, to show you what's right for you. Okay, so that's what I highly recommend, is using on the Blue Dot or the Heal Analyze program. Use the Blue Dot and find out based on all Healy programs. And you heard Lori mentioned earlier Gym Elixirs. There's another database. There's lots of different databases within there. But if you're trying to find out what microcurrent programs are most beneficial to you in this moment, then that's the way to do it. Okay, so hopefully that helps you out. I want to kind of do a quick little review here as to what have we talked about tonight. Seasonal conditioning, circadian rhythm, our rhythm with the circadian rhythm, our dance with this planet, with this world, with the demographic in which you are. And how do we actually improve our health, even though the days are shorter, even though the temperatures are colder, even though we have certain seasonal disorders or conditions? How do we actually still flourish within those? And as a review, we want to make sure that we're looking at our activities. Number one important thing is, what are we doing that's going to find harmony with our different season? What are we doing to find harmony? Not same old, same old. We really need to adjust our schedule, really need to change some of our calorie intake, really feel into the body and see if you are just as active, but you're also active under the influence of melatonin. There's going to be a shift within how your body utilizes nutrients based on this input of melatonin because of the darkness. So I know it's like where I'm at now, it's dark out. It's only, it's not even 6:30 p.m. here on the West Coast. And I'm used to being out until like 9 p.m., right? Active outside doing things until 9 p.m. But now I'm not. So just take into account that your intake, calorie intake, the macros, the fats, carbs, and proteins are aligned with your activity, right? Aligned with your activity. Okay. Next is the emotional part, right? What are we doing to speak to the emotional part? I love the sun. I love the sun. So being able to interface with light when there's light, does that mean getting up earlier? Maybe, maybe. You know, what's more important? You can't step over your health to stay in your routine. I mean, your body's going to have a response. If you keep stepping over your health to maintain your routine. I'm just saying, I mean, that's not my law. That's the genetic coding. All right. So what else, Lori? Reviewing?
Well, you know, your health is your most important thing. Your health is your wealth. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything. So it's got to be your top priority. And, you know, I think setting a simple coaching module intention, I put one in the chat earlier. I now navigate the seasonal changes with grace and ease. I embrace the colder weather and find joy in all the seasons. You could add to that, you know, I eat appropriately for this time of year, maintain my weight, and I'm eager to get up when the sun rises and just see what comes up. I know I talk about the coaching module all the time, but I'm telling you guys, it is so powerful. I have seen it change my life. I've seen it change the lives of my clients. And it's just, it's really shifting people in profound ways.
Mm-hmm.
And why wouldn't you use it to biohack the seasons then?
And the you know, the other part that we talked about is the relationships with things, relationship with others, people, relationships with our habits, our behaviors, our patterns, relationships with the season, or with the daylight, with the nighttime. These relationships we should really visit in deep contemplation to find out. And I ask this question, everyone that I ever work with. I ask myself this question every day. I ask this question, does what I did yesterday belong in my future? Because this present moment is the only point in which I can decide that. Right? So do my habits, behaviors, beliefs, and perceptions of yesterday belong in my future? And if the answer is no, then this is the time now to start to sort that out, to really weed those out and allow those to fall away. And just because you've always done it that way doesn't mean it's serving you still. That's, I mean, I think about this all the time. Well, I hear it all the time. Well, that's just who I am. Well, that's what I've always done. Well, if you always do what you've always done, you always get what you always get, right? It's going to be
Absolutely
same. Right. So anything else we want to review? Any questions there we have?
There was one that Paula Petrie asked earlier about, she wanted to know if there is any discussion on creating a program for specific sound frequencies. And if I recall, isn't Deep Cycle H, doesn't that have some harmonics in it?
Well, let's just go for a moment about frequency. And there's this, Healy operates within this frequency spectrum of 0.1 hertz to 1,000,000 hertz, 1 megahertz. Okay. Just take a look at what sound frequencies are. What are sound frequencies? They're in that spectrum.
Right.
Every single time Healy picks a frequency within the sound spectrum, you're getting it. All right, because that's just the way it works. Your ears don't hear it, but the pulsations of the microcurrent that's going through your body is no different. So just because you hear a tone with the ear, or feel a pulse with a microcurrent, or even get a sensation of vibration into the body, the reticular activating system takes that content and then assigns meaning to it. All right. And yes, music has wondrous effects on us, but just because it's not being heard through the ear doesn't mean it's not being experienced in the body. Okay. So, so this is some people don't think about it that way. I mean, I studied wave theory forever, as an engineer. And so I was like, oh, hey, that's the same frequency that they were playing on the guitar. Like, okay, and we can transmit that signal. Think about what's coming across the airwaves from the radio station antenna to the antenna on your car, right? And there's just content. So the information around the guitar or the piano or the DJ's voice is in that signal that's going through the airwaves, and then your antenna picks it up and your radio decodes it and plays again for you. So the information is still there. This is the cool thing about the information field. It's still there. And then your body is getting the results from it. And Healy's giving you that. So
that's a very good point. Thank you for sharing that. Because you're right. It just doesn't mean if we're not hearing it, that it isn't happening. I will say that in the coaching module, I have added solfeggio frequencies based on, things that have come up. So there's a section in there where you can go in and actually add pictures. I've added my epigenetic emotional healing artwork into it, and I've added solfeggio tones into it. And I'm getting some pretty profound results. I even worked with a client / friend of mine who had what they call a suicide disease. Do you know what the name of that is?
I don't know the official medical name of that, but yeah, it's a very painful experience.
Yeah, it's like trimelalgia or something like that. Anyway, it's super, super, super painful. And usually, even when she's taking the major meds, like the heavy duty pain meds, it's still not really taking it away, and it's debilitating. And so she was going to get married, and 6 weeks, she did get married, but 6 weeks before the wedding, I said, I need you to come over. And thank you, Dr. Colleen. That's what it is. I have no idea how to pronounce that, but that's what it is. She posted it in the chat.
Trigeminal neuralgia.
Thank you. Thank you.
It even sounds painful.
Say that 4 times fast. Come on.
Right. So I literally took her on a journey, and I had her imagine what her life would be like when she no longer had to deal with this. Because the last thing I wanted to see happen was for her to have an episode on her wedding, because it would have destroyed the day. So I put her through this guided visualization and had her imagine the whole scene of her life without this in it, every single detail. And then I had her write it out and put it into the coaching module. And from that hugely elevated space, we ran the coaching module and came up with probably 20 different things that were emotional triggers that were creating this in her life. And I kid you not, she went 3 weeks without a flare-up. And the day that she had a flare-up was the day after her bachelorette party. So possibly she overdid some stuff. So she texted me and I said, okay, I need you to just lay down, and I'm going to send these frequencies to you for an hour. And I did. And at the end of the hour, she got up and went for a walk with her girlfriends.
Wow.
And she told her doctor about this, and her doctor is wanting more information about Healy, because she can't believe that even was possible for that to happen. And the wedding went off without a hitch. It was the most beautiful, magical, love-filled day I've ever experienced. So this, I'm an epigenetic geek and I'm a coaching module geek, but I'm telling you guys, there's a reason for both, and really good ones too.
That's awesome. By the way, folks, if you want to save the chat, if you're on your computer, you can click on those 3 little dots at the bottom of the chat input spot there, those 3 little dots. You can save those to your computer. Right there where you would type in a message, there's a little smiley face and then 3 dots. You can click on that and you could change this, because Lori did put in some of the programs that we had talked about that are great for this seasonal, this time of year. So definitely save that to your computer if you can. If you're on a mobile device, it doesn't work the same. You can't do that. So there is a quick question in here. Rita asks about are the natural cycle programs more effective in certain seasons? And Lori and I talked about how, that's a whole nother class in itself, but the natural cycle is based on circadian rhythm, and it's always based on circadian rhythm. And so pay attention to that. Yes, it is going to be, it's seasonal. There's always one that starts on each solstice and then runs through that based on your demographic, wherever you are. And then it's going to align with certain organs, systems in your body, so that you can actually run certain programs based on your circadian rhythm. Now, remember, some of those are going to be in the middle of the night or whatever. So the whole natural cycle thing, there is some training on that. We won't get into it deeply here, but it's a great benefit, great program. And Lori put in the next Monday Night Magic coming up in November. So hopefully we'll see you guys there.
Yes, November 14th. And we'll get the recording for tonight to you ASAP, wherever you saw this posted. You'll get that. If you're on the email list, I'll send that email out. If not, we'll post it into all the groups where this information about this evening was posted. So you guys, we really love you. We love supporting you. And we know that this device can be complicated at times, but there's so much good here. There's so much good. You're doing so many fabulous things for your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. And we're happy to help you. So
Yay.
Thank you all for being here. And thank you, Ken, for being my amazing co-host and epigenetic geek friend.
I love being here with you, Lori. Thank you so much. I feel like, we can get on a roll and go all night, but I'm glad that we talked about some really cool stuff. Hopefully you guys got some content that was useful to you. If so, please share this event with others and invite someone here next time. And let's see if we can expand the community of information and make it more valuable.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to invite prospects, because the prospects can see the depth of what's possible here.
Absolutely. Big loves, everybody. Thank you all for being here.
Love you guys.
Mwah. See you again next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Love
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
You.
Thank
Bye,
you.
y'all.
Bye.
Bye, Izzy.
Those taxes done.
Bye, Lori. Have a good night.
You too.
Mwah. Bye, everybody.